Welcome back, everybody, to the first day of One-and-Done-athon this weekend here on GDQ Hotfix. My name is Jay Hobbs, and sadly, I will be leaving for the rest of the day, but I'll be back tomorrow, don't worry. And that's not what's important here anyways, because we have one of the Hyperspeed games coming up next. It is Bastion, going to be run by Primorix, a legend of this video game. So please, everybody, tune in, watch this run, and enjoy Amerlin as your host for the rest of the day. Bye, everybody, and good luck, Primorix.
All right, thank you, Hobbs. So I'm Primorix. This is Bastion, and this. Oh no, not that. I'll talk about the game a little more. So this is my first speed game that I picked up way back in 2014, and I didn't pick up this category or the unrestricted version of this category for a bit. By the way, say hi to Cool Gold. This is the city crest with sunglasses. Anyway, so yeah, this is my definitely favorite run. I've put a lot of work into, finding all kinds of new tricks and ways to break this game to the point where I'm actually running a restricted version of the all story levels category, where basically we play all the levels in sequence and don't duplicate any cores to skip story progression. And we additionally aren't doing menu storage because that turns out to be very broken too. But anyway, I'm joined by some dude. They're also a very knowledgeable runner of this game, if you want to say hi.
Hi there, I'm some dude. I've been running Bastion since like late 2015, so Primorix is a little bit my senior on this, but yeah, no, I'm really excited for you to see the insane things that Primorix has done to this poor game.
Oh my god. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to get into the game. Time doesn't start quite yet. It's going to start when I click to get up. I will count that in, but just as a warning, I'm going to start the game, but it's not quite the start of the run.
Bastion, by the way, if you're not aware, if you're familiar with Hades that came out late 2020, was that it? Well, I mean, it's been in early access for a long time before that, but this is from that same developer, Supergiant Games. This is their first game that they ever made.
Yep. And so I'm here at the Rippling Walls, so let's get started in 3, 2, 1, go. So immediately the movement right now is just walking. That's going to change pretty quickly. Once I pick up the hammer, I'll get access to the roll, which is actually bugged with this control scheme. So I'm specifically using a control scheme where I move with the left mouse button by just holding it down. And that allows me to move faster because basically the game considers me to be walking and rolling at the same time.
And this is the major reason why we play on the PC version of the game. That's the only version that has that control scheme available. And as you'll see really quickly, we roll everywhere in this game just constantly. So even in the shorter categories of this game, rolling using mouse movement saves minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the most combat-heavy section of this intro level here, so just to explain some of the basic combat mechanics, I have 2 weapons, typically a melee weapon and a ranged weapon. So right now it's the hammer, which has a few different swing types, and the Fang Repeater, which has a 50% chance to one-shot the enemies that I want to use it on, which is very fun.
And as you'll see from kind of this early combat here in the Soul Regret, a lot of our combat is choreographed out pretty well in advance. So on top of what we're seeing with, just kind of the usage of the hammer and the Fang Repeater, which deals damage just in increments of 3 or 4, we're going to be seeing just all throughout this game, anytime we have to fight enemies, groups of enemies or big bosses or anything like that, all of that is pretty much just planned out well in advance, since we can manipulate enemies pretty easily. So going into the Wharf District here, this is going to be one of the first big tricks that we see here in the run. Not as impactful in ASL as in other categories, but Primorix is going to be setting up a trick called Ticketless after he opens up the menus for these buildings here, just to get through some tutorial text, everything like that. But what Ticketless is it's sort of an auto-scroller skip. So Primorix right now is activating a barge at the far enough away from that barge to be able to clip back through the gate that's closing behind him, and that lets him go back through the level while that auto-scroller is going, pick up a secret skill called Whirlwind, we'll talk about secret skills in a little bit, as well as getting some a little bit extra experience and also picking up the bow. The bow we're not going to be using a huge amount, but basically we're just able to do all of this during an auto-scroller so we don't have to waste time picking it up earlier. And then once that auto-scroller ends, the game realizes we're not where we're supposed to be and, you know, very kindly drops us off at the arena at the end. We clip through a gate, pick up the core, that's the Wharf District. And so that lets us then go into the Bastion here and set up a pretty impactful glitch called Dialogue Glitch right here at the start. So what Primorix is going to be doing is opening the dialogue menu with Rux, selecting one of them, opening it again before that dialogue starts, and so there are right now 2 cutscenes overlapping with each other. And so what that lets us do is move during these cutscenes, and with some specific falls. 1 second.
All right, I should have it.
There we go. Yeah, just had to let Primorix listen for a sound cue there. But by overlapping these cutscenes on top of each other and then taking some specific falls in order to just keep control of the kid while that cutscene is playing out, that lets us hit the Skyway as soon as it spawns and be able to leave the Bastion immediately without having to build a building.
This is beautiful. The game decided to crash instead of going to the Workman Ward.
Oh, love that.
Yeah, so I'll have that back up in just a moment. That is... I don't know if it's going to be a problem. I don't know if it's saved after I didn't build anything. So I'm either going to have to redo the dialogue glitch or just build something and get out kind of normally.
I think that's the first time I've seen the game crash in that particular spot, to be honest. I'm not sure what would have caused that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, let's see.
All right,
here.
I do have to build.
Oh, unfortunately.
So I think we put the arsenal down.
Okay, not a huge deal. That is going to mess up some of the spacing because we build buildings in the Bastion in a pretty specific order, and that's kind of based on the fact that we don't have to build a building in that first visit to the Bastion using Dialogue Glitch, so Primorix is just going to have to work around that for the rest of the run. Shouldn't be a huge deal, though. Anyway, we're now here in the Workman Ward, and this is going to be another example of where we have some very choreographed fighting here. So that is just a power shot from the bow, a whirlwind, again, we're going to talk about secret skills in a bit, and then one more hit from the hammer just to kill that gas fella foreman immediately, and then just pick up the core and head right back out. There's like 3 entire other paths in that level, but we don't care about them.
So let's see. I think I have to audible to the distillery here, actually.
That sounds right. Yeah, the forge isn't going to be useful for anything in the run, so we need to pick up Ware Whiskey here. We're going to talk about Ware Whiskey in a bit because it's not going to be it's not going to make any use in the run for a little while yet. But in the meantime, we are on our way to the melting pot. This is going to be the first of a few auto-scrollers, unfortunately. There are a couple of those in this game. But that auto-scroller is just going to take the form of this big arena with a bunch of enemies that are going to be spawning for a few minutes.
Yeah, and I am going to actually be fighting everything, not just because it's kind of close quarters here with all the enemies that spawn, but there is some ability to speed up the level by killing certain groups of enemies quickly, and also I'm going to want to just maximize my experience gain for a timed level up that's going to happen later. Also a timed level up strat in this level, so basically once we get kind of towards the end of this wave, we're going to get some smaller blue scumbag enemies that drop down onto the ground, and basically by killing 2 of them with trip mines, which are a secret skill I just picked up, secret skills being basically a powerful attack that you can only use a limited number of times based on your black tonics, which is a resource up in the top left kind of HUD over there. And yeah, so get that one. That was a good spawn. That was not a good spawn.
Oh,
wow.
That was just barely too late.
Yeah.
So there's some randomness on when exactly those scumbags fall. There's really not much RNG in this game, but the little bit that there is in stuff like enemy spawns. So we when we're doing runs, we sort of just kind of have to hope that last scumbag is going to spawn as soon as it's able to, because what you saw there was the kid leveled up, and just like in real life, whenever you level up in Bastion, you explode. And that explosion is enough to just one-shot that scumbag. And of those 3 scumbags, once they're all dead, that ends that particular wave immediately. So unfortunately, that scumbag spawned just a little bit late, just barely too late.
Yeah, that had to have been close to like a max length spawn delay, because the first 2 came down really quickly, and I did wait a good amount of time.
It happens though. That's
it's
just
how it goes.
Yeah, that's melting pot for you. Anyway,
Yep.
we're now past all of the waves that you can actually save time on. Actually, the rest of the waves from here on out have associated enemies that you're supposed to be able to kill in order to end the waves early, but they kind of just forgot to put those triggers in for the rest of this level, so the rest of this auto-scroller is going to go the speed that it goes at no matter what. But there is still some stuff to do here, because thankfully, I believe the ally enemies have been taken care of, so that they're not going to get in the way of anything. But what Primorix is going to be doing here is clearing out some enemies in order to make way for a gas fella that showed up right there. And that gas fella knocks you into the air when he hits you, and we're going to be taking advantage of that right now in order to make our way over to the barge before we'd be able to get onto it normally and just end the level just a little bit early. That was really well done.
Yeah. So we kind of refer to that as damage boosting. It's a pretty exaggerated version of like a damage boost you might see in a platformer or something. Pretty heavily exaggerated, actually. That's kind of comical. But yeah, so if we refer to like a damage boost or an enemy boost, it's just getting hit up into the air and then rolling in the air to cover ground without having to worry about falling.
Speaking of ground, we're going to talk about that in the Sundown Path right now. This is actually the only level in the game where the ground is guaranteed to keep up with you no matter what speed you're rolling. I really wish they could have just done that for the rest of them, but like the ground in this level and the ground across the rest of the game, just to give you an idea, you are rolling 30% farther for each roll than the game is expecting you to. So in most levels, the ground isn't actually able to keep up. And yeah, Primorix using those sky bridges there, we're going to see some more of those in a little bit. They just kind of throw you in a direction. And as we kill this boss scumbag here, that was a really solid fight, we're picking up a hand grenades. And this is going to be a good moment to talk about secret skills. As Primorix mentioned, they are basically just special abilities that you have. You get 3 charges of them. You can pick up Black Tonics to get more within a level. But the hand grenades in particular are really, really powerful for combat. They deal 88 damage in a pretty big area, and that damage will wipe out any swarms of enemies. It will pretty quickly chunk down really huge enemies, especially with Were Whiskey, which we're going to be seeing the beginning of in another couple levels. In the meantime, though, we're getting into the Hanging Gardens, and where the Sundown Path was a really generous level in terms of the ground, the Hanging Gardens is actually one of the least forgiving levels in the game in terms of how the ground spawns. It spawns slowly and awkwardly, and you really don't have a good visual cue on when the collision is actually there for you to walk on. So this is one of those levels that kind of like really pulls into focus just how deep the movement system is and what you have to do in order to keep up with the ground. By the way, you can just roll over that gap as well.
Yeah. This is where you really get like some good mileage out of the movement in this game. It's not so much that it's very difficult to like execute. You pretty much are just pressing, spacebar or whatever every half a second to roll, but having to contend with the ground and basically choreograph your movement like we choreograph the combat to stay on solid ground and also spawn the ground in front of you faster is very technical and very difficult to do like at a high level.
It's one of those things where I really think that Bastion is kind of the epitome of a game that's easy to learn but hard to master, because you can just roll a little bit slower when you're starting out, but like it really is a game of chicken at the level that Primorix is playing it. to stay right at the edge of the ground without falling over it. And every fall, by the way, Primorix hasn't fallen just yet, knock on wood, but every fall in this game costs you about 2.5 seconds from the animations of falling, landing, and getting up, and then being able to, get back into it. So falls are really costly in this game.
Yeah, I'll also talk about what happened just there. So because my building routing got messed up, Rux actually had a narration line when I hit the level select screen, and almost all the time you're able to skip that by just playing a different narration line at the same time that it would normally trigger. That's known as a text skip, but didn't get to show it off there. So actually, in a way, it kind of does show off what I'm trying to do pretty much every other time in the Bastion.
Right now, though, we are in Cinderbrick Fort. Really important part about this level is that Primorix rolled right past the scrap musket, which is actually one of the most important weapons in the game. We're skipping it right now because we're going to be picking it up after this level in the Lost and Found. And we're doing that because it's pretty much even either way, but we're going to pick it up in the Lost and Found because we're going to use it later and just want to get some tutorial text out of the way. Also, you can just clip through that gate at the end of the level and just skip that entire boss fight. Glutus and Glandon and all their scumbag uncles get to live another day.
Yeah, so
We're
I mean, if there are any fans of the Glutus and Glandon fight, sorry.
So this is where we're building the Lost and Found, and we're picking up the scrap musket right here, again, just to get that tutorial text out of the way. Kind of just have to sit through it the first time you do it, so you spend about the same amount of time either way, so that just sets us up for later in the run.
Yeah, because later on I'm going to be making actually a double purchase of some secret skills in the mid-game, and I basically want to be able to do that menu as quickly as possible. So that's where the advantage of getting the musket through that method comes into play.
We're now in Pith Orchard, and we're going to go through another pretty well choreographed fight here to get rid of that bull there. We're now going to invoke Pith, and good job there. Primorix invoked Pith on the same frame that he exited the shrine, which skipped the tutorial text there. And that also is then going to set us up for later in the run, because this is actually the newest tech that we found in the game, a week ago,
new.
Not even.
It is, I think, literally a week ago.
So what Pith does is Pith doubles the movement speed of enemies in the game. And you would think that would be kind of a detriment, because why would you want enemies to be a little bit harder to deal with? But as it turns out, having some enemies move faster and in some cases attack a little faster saves, at least from what we've found so far, about 3 seconds over the course of the run, compared to the cost of half a second of activating Pith.
Yeah. Takes a little bit of time to actually activate it. So, but for now, there's no Pith Idol active, because when you invoke it in that level, Pith Orchard, it's only active for Pith Orchard. You have to actually build the building in the Bastion to get kind of full access to it. So yeah, for now we just have kind of regular speed enemies, and in Langston River we are going to be seeing Were Whiskey. I guess I'll talk about that a little bit later as well, but for now I just want to drink all of my health tonics, because it's a spirit Were Whiskey, a passive buff that relies on you being at low health. So if I'm at low health, below I believe 33%, I will do critical hits with every attack, which is double damage all the time on everything.
And that's part of what lets combat go as smoothly as it does through a lot of the mid-game and late game of Bastion. Pretty much any time that we're going to have combat from here on out that we have to stick around for, we're going to be picking up Were Whiskey somewhere in the level, taking enough damage to activate it, and then basically just carrying that through the end of the level and destroying anything in the way that needs to be taken care of. Because being able to do the critical hits all the time really makes these boss fights go very quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of our shortcut version of upgrading your weapons like you might do in a casual playthrough. That would, take a while and not be very efficient, so instead I just, take advantage of the fact that I know the levels very well and generally am able to not die in them, even though I'm one strong hit away from dying all the time.
And those shots from the musket will give you an idea of just how powerful Were Whiskey is, and also just how satisfying it is to use. I love seeing like the yellow text, the sound of the crit. But yeah, it really makes combat into kind of an entirely different beast in this game compared to normal.
Yeah, you can really melt away even like pretty late game bosses' health with Were Whiskey, especially when you have hand grenades that are now doing 176 damage, which is enormous for this game.
That'll one-shot most enemies.
Yeah, it'll almost one-shot this boss gas fellow that's just about to spawn as well.
Yeah, so here's the boss that's coming up in this level, and that was the boss.
Yeah. 2 hits, grenade and a musket, and that's it. So, gonna be hanging on to Were Whiskey for a little while longer. There are some birds that you have to take care of, because of course there are, and this is actually a very precise trick, getting close enough to these peckers, the name for the birds, that you can actually one-shot them with the musket.
Yeah, these large peckers have, I believe, 52 health, and
Something
you have
like
to be
that.
just about point-blank range on those shots in order to, like, kill them in one shot. It's very difficult to do. So that was a really solid fight right there at the end. Really solid Langston River in general.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So, coming up, this is, like, Hanging Gardens times 10 in terms of the ground being annoying. Like, there are some spots where you literally just have to walk for extended periods of time because the ground just does not come up quickly at all. And then there are also some rather tricky clips at the end of this level, so overall it's probably the hardest early game level, I would say.
Yeah, there's a lot of, like, very precise movement you need to do in this level to get over those bridges before they fall. And are you going to go for the sky bridge here?
I tried, I didn't quite
Oh,
get
that was
it.
close. All right. There is like 2 frames where you can get a roll in right at the end of that sky bridge before you would flop on the ground and have to get back up. But yeah, that's the first gate clip of 2 here. And there's the other one right here. So we're able to skip like the rest of Prosper Bluff, and that was really good. Primorix made those gate clips look easy. They are not.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So coming into the Bastion here, there is another cutscene that I have to wait out, but this is where I'm going to be building the shrine, which is the final building I have to put up in the Bastion, and I'm going to be going into it very briefly to re-invoke the Pith Idol. So from here until like the final 3 levels of the game, all the enemies are going to be faster.
Yeah,
and I'm inflicting all this on myself for like 2-3 seconds.
Yeah, this is still a very new strat, and so we're still sort of getting used to how the enemies move when they're going twice the speed that they normally are. We're pretty good for the most part at working around it, but the combat gets kind of chaotic in a few spots.
Yeah, for sure. Apparently, I'm also getting used to remembering to do it.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
So here in the Wild Outskirts is where we're going to be seeing the first of that sort of combat with Pith on. This is going to be another Were Whiskey level, just taking a bunch of damage on that pin cushion, plus some pecks here in order to get Were Whiskey and clear out these peckers as they're spawning. And once that's done, we're going to be picking up the core here and then doing a clip through the brush on the right in order to not have to deal with going all the way around the level here.
Very good clip as well.
That was a really solid clip. You got like over halfway to the Skyway from there. That's a really fast clip.
Yep. And now I really have to let some dude take over because this next level is very, very difficult.
Yeah, Jawson Bog is a pretty huge run killer, and especially so with Pith. This is a really dangerous level. Now, there is a kind of a big thing going on in the Bastion before that. Primorix is going to be setting up Pipe Glitch. This Pipe Glitch works in very much the same way as Dialogue Glitch at the first visit to the Bastion, in that we're overlapping some cutscenes on top of each other in order for the kid to be able to move during them. So he falls at the same time as he activates a cutscene just talking about Zulf's smoking pipe, and while that's going on, he just puts a core into the monument, has to wait for that fade to white to finish in order to go to the Skyway, otherwise the game soft locks. So good self-discipline there. And then we are on the way to Jawson Bog. So I mean, we talk about this level in like, you know, as though it's like this really scary thing. To be fair, it's just this one boss fight toward the end of it. You know, it's a little bit scary, but you know, at least the first half of this, we're just picking up the shard and just like getting through there. And all you have to do really is, what is happening here? Yeah, so we're gonna be going into like a pretty big dream sequence here, and.
Yep.
This is the really scary part of the run. So what Primorix is going to be doing is he's going to be picking up Whiskey right during this first battle here. We're going to be going through a bunch of vignettes of previous levels, basically. And so he's going to be picking up Whiskey from these stink eyes. I think you might have gotten that.
Yeah.
Oh, that was really solid. Nice. Okay, so Primorix was able to kill the first stink eye fast enough to trick the game into thinking he had killed all of them, since none of them had actually finished spawning yet. So, with that done, he is now into this Hanging Garden section. Had to spend an extra grenade, unfortunately, to kill all of those enemies, but once again, killing the enemies quickly enough to trick the game into thinking that the wave is done, and that's kind of the trick of pretty much this whole sequence. Just a quick jaunt through the Bastion here as we go to the Soul Regret, and this is the really dangerous area here, because what Primorix needs to do here is destroy this large sort of squirt spawner here, kill a fire turret at the right time, just as it spawns before any of the other turrets spawn, in order to spawn Rondi, which is the way out of this level, take a death at a very specific time while that transition is happening, so that he can fall and be able to move through this last section here in the rippling walls, which he did. That saves 8 seconds on its own, but we're still not done, because he still has to kill his doppelganger here, and that's with one fewer grenade, I think, but he made it through. Okay, nice. But yeah, so all of that sequence there was in order to take a very well-timed death in order to save 8 seconds not having to just sit around at the start of the rippling walls, and then be able to kill his kid doppelganger at the end of it before the cutscene caught up and forced him into that get-up animation. That is so difficult to do. It really, like, the fact that Primorix was able to get through it as cleanly as he did doesn't do justice to just how difficult that entire zombie kid sequence is.
Yeah, I had to do a little bit of improv there with the secret skill routing, but honestly, I nailed that. That was extremely good.
Yeah, that went really cleanly.
And now this arena is like pretty straightforward. You just have to kill all the enemies basically before the last couple ones spawn, so that you can get out a little bit faster. But you have plenty of time, as you can see. I'm just standing here.
Got another level up here as well, which basically just refilled his grenades, refilled his black tonics. But yeah, that last boss fight is sort of an auto-scroller, just because we have to wait for that last pin cushion to spawn before we can actually move on out of this level. So
yeah, and now I'm gonna have to start thinking about my upgrade order, because all the buildings are in the wrong place.
yeah,
but
so
I'll figure it out. Anyway, this one is pretty straightforward. We're just going to the shrine and gonna be heading to Rothus Lagoon, which, first of all, is the level where I'm going to pick up the pike, which is the last weapon I'm going to get in this run. It's the best melee weapon, and also has a very cool secret skill attached to it. And we're also going to do a little damage boosting.
Yeah, so kind of the gimmick of this level is Queen Anne, the boss, kind of shows up and attacks you whenever you go into the tall grass. And as you saw right there, we can use that to our advantage and just cross some pretty huge gaps anytime that Queen Anne would be attacking us. So that lets us skip pretty much all of the combat in this game. That plus a gate clip right at the end takes us directly to the arena where we're going to be fighting Queen Anne. And then Primorix is going to be picking up Whiskey in order to do a one cycle on Queen Anne and just kill her as soon as she spawns. And the way he's going to be doing that is he's going to lob a grenade at a specific time so that it deals the 176 damage to Queen Anne, pick up the core, and then just hit Queen Anne one more time with the pike, and that deals enough damage in total for the Skyway to say, okay, yeah, you've done enough damage to Queen Anne, we can let you leave now. And the Skyway opens up and you can just head out without having to kill Queen Anne.
Yeah,
so that was a really clean fight.
Mechanic in this level where if you do enough damage to Queen Anne, like you basically do enough of the fight, you can leave without actually defeating her.
but it only
yeah.
starts checking that after you've picked up the shard. So Primorix had to pick up, time his picking up of that shard after the grenade hit, but before his pike, in order for that to register.
Yeah. And now we get another auto-scroller. This is the last auto-scroller level of the run. It's also a very difficult level, which you might not expect for one that's mostly an auto-scroller, but there are a few parts that you have control over, and they are very tough.
Yeah, so this is, now that we have Pike Vault, we picked up Pike Vault from the Lost and Found, and that's why we, opened it up earlier and got the tutorial text out of the way. But Pike Vault is the most broken secret skill in the game. If hand grenades are the most broken for combat, Pike Vaults are just the most broken, period. So as you saw there, what it does is it launches you up into the air, you get to maneuver yourself a little bit to kind of aim your Pike Vault, and then you slam down and deal damage in an area. We don't care about the damage that Pike Vault deals. I don't think Pike Vault is actually going to hurt anything over the course of this run. But
it shouldn't, yeah.
But that combined with a roll, doing a Pike Vault lets you cross gaps without needing to worry about being damage boosted by an enemy. So you don't get quite as much distance as you do from a damage boost, but the fact that we're able to move over gaps in the ground is going to make a huge difference throughout the rest of this run, and even just in the end of this level. Right now, though, at the end of this first auto-scroller, there's two, by the way, Primorix is going to be doing some off-screen rolls here. So he's lining himself up pretty precisely in order to just roll down this stretch of, straight way without having to, use the mouse button to turn or anything like that. And that just lets him move forward without, before the camera finishes its pan and catches up to the kid. So now we're here in this second part of the level, another auto-scroller just so soon after the first.
This is classic Pith Idol, by the way, that pecker from way before in the level just chased me all the way here. Enemies actually chase you very far when they go faster.
Yeah, it's usually pretty easy to outrun enemies, but there are there are some enemies throughout these levels now that are way scarier than they used to be just because they can keep up.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just through another auto-scroller here, so as these peckers just fly to and fro and just are utterly terrifying all the way through, I'm gonna start explaining the trick that we're gonna do at the end of this level. So once this auto-scroller's done, there's going to be basically a small sort of arena after an area with a couple enemies that you have to kill, where an Ura is sitting, which is if you're not familiar with Bastion, that's basically just a sort of a race of people that Caelandia got into a war with. But Primorix is going to be pike vaulting around this area to get into that arena without the game taking away his roll to do a cutscene. And then he's going to roll into that Ura at the same time that he activates that cutscene by talking to it. And that's going to cause him to fall, and I'm just going to let him do this because he needs to hear.
Alright, I think I got it. Yep, okay.
Very solid. So what he did during that blackout part of that cutscene, so while the screen was fully black, the kid fell off of the arena after talking to that Ura, landed, got up, he picked up a memento, pike vaulted over a gap that doesn't exist, doesn't get filled in until after that cutscene ends, and then walked over to the Skyway and interacted with it. That was all done just entirely blind, basically, during what was supposed to be a cutscene.
Yeah, basically I just had to figure out a setup for where to hold my mouse that allows you to do all of that without, worrying too much about actual movement.
Anyway, we are now in Culford Cauldron, which is another level with some very trolly ground. But
that's not the most trolly thing. Oh yeah, I'm gonna try it once.
Do it. You won't.
I'll try it one more time. I fell. That's close.
Oh, that was really close. Okay. That is the most precise pike vault in the game, and if you hit it on the first try, it saves 6 seconds, something like that?
Yeah.
No, it's a really, really difficult pike vault. We, even at the world record level, we don't really go for it in runs just yet. Just because it would be such a run killer if we tried. But yeah, now we're through half of this level. We've picked up the shard. Primorix is going to be hitting that Skyway and healing on the same frame. Well done. And that allows the kid to land on his feet instead of doing the whole like flying through the air and flopping on his face and getting up that way. Nice. You did not die from those stink eyes on the way out. Those stink eyes are way scarier with Pith. They can just kind of like swarm you and blow up and just like take all your health in like half a second.
That is a huge spot where Pith Idol is very annoying.
We were talking about this like before the run started. Like, hey, like, are you planning to like just YOLO that?
Yep. All right, so get it's not really a breather, but relative to all the other levels, it's a breather. Mountain Zand. So we start off not being able to really see the ground too well. And that's fine, right?
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. To be fair, like the visual of the ground forming up can be pretty deceiving in a lot of levels. So, you know, we're playing mostly by feel anyway, so it's not like that's a huge difference compared to a lot of levels.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're just kind of like getting through this area here, and we're going to be getting to a pretty big boss fight here. This is going to be one where like Whiskey makes a huge deal. We're picking up this core here, and you can actually just go straight to the Skyway. And
man, imagine if we did have to do it, and you just got healed to full right before it.
That would suck, actually. I'm really glad that Skyway is just open. It's supposed to be this like ethical like thing from the story of like, hey, these are just animals that are trying to survive too. Are you really gonna destroy them all? Well, as it turns out, saving the animals also saves time in this run, so we don't have to choose.
All right, so now this is probably at this point up there with Jawson in terms of run killers. Because of one particular pretty recently found trick at the end of this level, and I'll let some dude, I guess, start to explain that while I get through the rest of the level.
Yeah, the Burstone Quarry here is just kind of like a movement gauntlet. It really kind of tests your movement skills, but it's like really fun to move through. But Primorix is going to be stopping at the arsenal here to pick up Sneaky Decoy. This is a secret skill that when you place it, it places a decoy of yourself, it causes your next hit to be a crit, and it also causes any enemies that see it to target that decoy instead of you. So Primorix is falling at a specific time here so that he can lay a decoy to cause Sir Lunky, the boss that we just saw there at the end, to chase after it. And did he fall? I haven't seen. Oh, there he is. I just saw him in the corner of the screen. So Lunky basically just yeeted himself off of the side of the arena here, and while he was doing that, Primorix clipped through all of those gates at the end there, which again kind of skipped a cutscene that would cause him to lose his roll, and so that allowed him to just get right here, spawn some ground ahead of time so he wouldn't have to wait for it, and then pick up that shard and be able to just leave the level immediately. That saves like 8 seconds on its own. It's 8 or 10 seconds, and it's like something a really huge skip. That like kind of revolutionized any percent no MS. No, that's really huge.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are now getting into the invasion, the Ura invasion of the Bastion. We need to fend off these Ura, and obviously the best way to do that is to die repeatedly. So Primorix is going to be taking 2 deaths here, taking advantage of his 1 chance to carry on. You basically get 2 lives per level. And then once he dies, he's going to restart the level in order to save it, in order to save the game. And specifically, he's restarting without idols in order to get rid of Pith. We don't want it for the rest of the run. But that restart saves the game because it hadn't saved since before Burstone Quarry. And with that save, he was able to just quit to the main menu, continue from there, and the game is hard-coded to send you to the regular Bastion when you do that. So we're able to just head right back into it. And just skip the Ura invasion entirely.
All we need is one last shard.
Oh, that was a really weird tech skip. That was actually a tech skip.
You actually got the tech skip there?
Well, I missed what should have been it, but then I ended up taking long enough that it started another short line. Like
nice.
The moment, yeah.
Task failed successfully.
Anyway, setting up Whiskey here is pretty intricate for this level. Basically, it's hard to, we don't really have like a place to slow down and take a bunch of hits. So you just kind of take, a hit there, hit here, hit there, as you move through the level. And basically the end result is that when I need it, I am going to have Whiskey. hopefully.
Yeah, we only have one fight and some like rocks that we need to clear out that we actually need Were Whiskey for. So we want to take the hits leading up to it. These are the rocks that would not go down in one hit if not for Were Whiskey. But we only really have one fight that we need it for. So yeah, this is kind of like an inversion of how a lot of Were Whiskey levels go, in that kind of the difficulty is like actually taking enough hits at the right time without slowing down in order to get Were Whiskey for this one fight right here at the end of the level. There's going to be 3 Rattletails that show up. We don't really need to talk about Rattletails because we're not going to interact with them very much after this, but that's just going to be 2 well-timed grenades to destroy those 3 Rattletails, and that's what ends this level. That's what opens up the Skyway here.
Yep.
So that was really solid.
Yeah, very clean level. So that was, a bit more of a combat setup level. Zoltan's Hollow, which is the next level here in this final sequence of 3 levels, is really all about movement, and it's all about unintended movement. Because basically the mechanic of this level is you have these silver pillars, the conductors, that are over kind of panning to the right of the screen here. Basically, when you break those, it opens the way forward in the level past these black gates, but the black gates actually are pretty easy to roll past.
Yeah, the invisible walls that like kind of cover all of those black gates are like miles apart. It's like, as long as you're like heading into the right spot to do a clip, it's like kind of embarrassingly easy to clip through all of these gates. So we're not going to interact with any of these conductors. We're not really going to do any combat here. We get to just like head on through and get straight to the end of the level. And then we're going to be meeting up with Zia again right at the end of this level. And if it looks like that is going to follow you. So we're going to be using Zia here as basically a body shield. Oh, nice.
But yeah, so I had something I was going to say.
You can still take damage during the fade out at the end of this level. So this actually used to be a much bigger deal in previous routes of this game. But if you were to die as the game started loading the Bastion again, you would come back to the Bastion and have to navigate through a completely black screen. It just wouldn't load, basically.
Yeah.
So thankfully that wasn't an issue here.
Yes, and going into the final level here, Tassel Terminals, we're kind of almost done. This is a very long level, though. Actually consists of 4 pretty decent length maps that you have to traverse to get the final shard and finish the game. But I am equipping Pike Vault, and you'll see one reason why pretty shortly right here, hopefully. That looks good.
That looks very good.
So that's
nice.
just to skip a camera trigger that locks the camera in place for a little bit. That's like 2 to 3 seconds faster than the next fastest way to skip that trigger, which is falling. But that's not the real highlight of this level. No. The best part of this level, which no one in the community thought I would be saying this, is once you get hopscotch.
Yeah, hopscotch has been just a bane of the Bastion community pretty much since we started running it. Because as you can see right here, Primorix has picked it up, and you don't get to roll anymore. Now, instead of rolling, you're doing this like weird, slow, awkward hop all over the place. And like, hopscotch, I'm just gonna say it, even with this new route, hopscotch sucks. But we're able to take advantage of it because once again, it lets you move through the air and not have to be on solid ground. So hopscotch plus some pike vaults lets you skip this arena where there used to be this really difficult and really tense fight with a boss Ura. And thankfully, we're able to just skip the trigger that starts that fight now, and we're able to just skip right past that and into, the one platforming section in this game.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I'm
glad I at least got that skip second try. That pike vault out of the arena is fairly precise. And fun story, in my submission video, I failed that for like a minute and almost ran out of black tonics.
Yeah, thankfully you have a few tries.
I've gotten much better at it now.
Yeah, so like that set of pike vaults has turned what used to be like the scariest part of this level into honestly a pretty chill area. It's actually like done wonders for the end of this game.
Yeah, it's still kind of scary, but for a different reason. It's not going to totally like torch your run, but you can lose a lot of time to it.
Yeah.
Why would you even want
So a few more pike vaults here just to get around having to deal with some switches to open gates. And we are now going to get into actually the worst weapon in this game, which is the battering ram. The battering ram is super powerful.
Doesn't consider it a weapon when they do all weapons runs.
Yeah, we don't want to deal with this. It sucks. So the battering ram is actually the most powerful weapon in the game. It will one-shot literally anything, whether or not you have Were Whiskey. But I mean, just look at what Primorix is doing right now. You don't even get hopscotch anymore. Like, you can't even hop anymore. And like, you're just stuck with this heavy, like, dumb thing that like just slows your movement to a crawl and just kind of like kills the momentum of the end of this game. But we have to use it for this last room.
Yeah, but you do take less damage, which is good because they throw a whole lot of enemies at you to make up for that.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the big things that is a difference between this category and regular New Game ASL, which does allow menu storage, because you're able to like stack some menus from the distillery in such a way that lets you like turn off the flag that like slows your movement, but it also is a flag that like makes you take a third damage. So this area here actually becomes a bit scarier, you know, since you don't have nearly as much health. But with the battering ram, the biggest issue here really is just kind of attacking as little as possible, because you can see each one of these attacks just takes so long to go through, and especially the secret skills. So what Primorix is basically trying to do here is just tank damage strategically and destroy, you know, groups of enemies as much as possible, while just trying to get that Ura that's holding the shard, that big boss Ura, just moving to the next spot as soon as possible. And so he's just going to be like moving right past it. Yeah, and that really shows itself here. Oh my god, you took it. Oh, don't you dare, Pith. Okay, all right, that Pith was getting real dangerous.
No, this Ura is going to kill me.
Oh, wait, no, you're fine. You're not going to take any damage from here on out. So we're fine now. But still, that Ura is like really coming after you. That's really funny. Yeah. I usually see a Pith like chase after you sometimes, but
yeah,
not
well, that one got
Ura.
left alive from the secret skill.
Oh, I see. Super Ura.
Yeah.
So now in this last area here, we're not taking any damage from here on out, which you think wouldn't be an issue, but instead, anytime we get hit by a melee Ura, we get knocked back a little bit. So now the issue here, this is actually a very technical way to end the run, because now the issue is we're trying to, you know, move as much as possible and attack as little as possible. But when we attack, we want to time it in such a way that we're going to be killing these melee enemies as they get to us, so that we don't get knocked back. So there's actually kind of a lot that goes into basically just not losing tons of time right here at the end of the run. And so that's also why Primorix held onto one of his black tonics toward the end here, was just to clear out all of those melee Ura here. Another super Ura survived that meteor shower.
Yeah.
But with that said, that was the Tazzle Terminals. That was the last level in this game. Now we just have to put the last shard into the monument and pick an ending.
Well, first we have to get up, kid. And check the mail.
Kid.
Very important.
Get up, kid.
In this like kind of sequence at the end of the game, you actually have enough time to do a few things. After you get up, but before you're actually able to put the shard in. So I'm gonna pick up the Fractured Monument just for fun, and I'm also gonna check the mailbox, also purely just for fun.
Yeah. So. Hope you didn't forget about hopscotch, by the way. That's still here. Still no mail.
So now it's time to pick an ending. Time will come when I pick an ending, and the interesting thing about this is that this is the only main leaderboard category where you have a choice of endings, because the evacuation ending is tied to picking up the journal in Prosper Bluff, and no other category does that.
No clue why that is, but if you don't pick that up, you just don't get to choose evacuation ending.
Yeah.
Anyway, Primorix is going to be opening these dialogue menus, not talking to the NPCs, and time will be when he chooses an ending.
Yep, so that's Zia, this is Rux, and time. Alright, so yeah, that was Bastion, new game, all story levels, no menu storage. It's a great run. It's a run I've really only gotten into recently because for a while there was no reason to ban menu storage, but I'm very familiar with this run, kind of in a general sense, and put a lot of work into just finding things in different levels to speed it up. Really, every level in this game is just like its own little puzzle that you have to try to solve.
Yeah, over the past like 3 years now, Primorix has just been like tearing this category apart, just finding like every little time save that there is in this category, and like this category is unrecognizable compared to like 2019, 2020. This has seen like a huge amount of work from Primorix, and he's done some really great work with this category and the game in general. If you're interested in the game, if this looked really cool to you and you want to start speedrunning, you can find us at speedrun.com/Bastion. And you can also find a link to our Discord there. Introduce yourself, ask any questions. We are always so excited to help new runners out and help them get started with the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been great to be here. You know, like I said, when I was submitting this, I'm just proud to show off this run because I really have put a lot into it over the time that I've been speedrunning. And yeah, really, unfortunate the game crashed, but we worked around it, and really happy.
Had to have marathon luck somewhere.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, no, thank you everyone, and thanks to GDQ Hotfix for having me.
Yeah, and
thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank y'all for coming on and doing the run. I love Bastion. It's such a skill intensive run that you can really tell. It's wild. But I'm here, Amerlin. I'm in the studio. Hello everyone. As we say on One-and-Done-athon, goodbye forever, Primorix. We'll race that off. And we're gonna go to a quick break, and then we'll be right back with Prison Run and Gun by Deshane33. So stay tuned. We'll see you then.